We're gonna kick things off with a submission right off the bat. The platform arm lock is kind of like a jab. Once I gain the grip, I slide to the elbow, I get my foot on the hip. What I'm searching for here is the ability to shift my partner's hand into my armpit and trap it, taking the side of my biceps here and use it to pin my partner's hand between my ribs and lat and the side of my biceps. What I want here is my partner in a thumbs up sort of position, but I want to try to pin the hand as much as possible. Can you rotate?
I can't rotate. If
you can pull out, of course, yeah.
But with the other mechanism.
Of course, yeah.
But I can't rotate.
But hang on, now can you rotate?
Yes.
So this is where people tend to go wrong with this, is they want to try to pin the wrist. If I'm holding here, pull out.
No.
And now if I'm extending,
no.
That's the trap I'm looking for. If my foot is on your hip and I've got the palm of my hand against your elbow, I've got those hooks, middle finger against the medial epicondyle, thumb inside of the that forearm divot, and I've got a distance management tool here. I'm gonna go to my back and now place my right foot is on your hip. I'm gonna place my left knee at your shoulder. This is usually enough.
Tap, tap, tap.
But if we want to make it stronger, we step on our partner's neck.
Tap, tap.
So you can see how minimal the movement is here. If we're able to draw, and the way that we sell this is we don't try to put our partner's hand here. What we do is we push, and then when they drive back into us, right? So I'm trying to internally rotate your shoulder. This attack is best done from the palm facing my partner and the thumb being below like this, rather than the palm facing me and the thumb being up. So I try to internally rotate, you fight me, and I just go with it and plant your hand right here. Palm, your palm against the inside of my rib cage, and then I trap it I don't want my elbow against my hip because I don't actually have the best purchase there. I want my elbow to come in front of my hip. So again, I'm locking in place with structure. I'm not actually having to squeeze my lat super hard. I'm just placing my elbow against my hip bone.
Let's show that here.
So, 1, 2.
My hand's not here. It's going here a little bit.
As opposed to this. Right. So again, the amount of the wedging power of having the elbow in front is greater, and it's reinforced by my hip. So I'm not having to use squeezing power here. I'm just setting myself isometrically and I'm blocking you. And now I'm drawing to my back. So when I draw to my back, I'm sliding my hip forward slightly and my knee is coming in front. If your legs are long enough that you can place your foot on your partner's hip, so let's rotate here. If your legs are long enough that you can place your foot on your partner's hip, that's great. If you can't make contact, it's better that you, let's say, we don't want that. I don't want my knee to be below my partner's armpit and still be stepping on the hip. I do want my knee here to block my partner's shoulder. We talk about removing the slack from the joint. That's gonna happen by me stretching you a little bit, so I'm pushing my shin against your head and I'm squeezing your shoulder. We've talked about this idea in the submission formula of there being pliable structures in a joint that act as shock absorbers. I want your shoulder as restricted as possible so it's not acting as a shock absorber. Your elbow is obviously fully locked out. My palm is pressing up against your elbow. I'm blocking your shoulder, and now I'm hipping in. Again, sometimes people will try to lift straight up. So to prevent that,
tap, tap, tap. We're
hamstring curling our heel down on top of the shoulder. So this is our ideal sort of alignment here. And again, I can barely move. This is, as far as arm locks go, this is probably the most dangerous one in terms of the likelihood that if what you're used to is an arm bar like this and you having to hip in maybe a foot or more to get someone to tap, if you hip in the same way on this that you do on your regular arm bars, you will break someone's arm. So there's an adjustment period when you learn this. Please, the first few times you do it, think about increments of a couple of millimeters at a time that you're going to move your hips. Otherwise, you're definitely going to injure your training partner. The end of the lever here is so completely trapped, and the amount of slack that we've taken out of the structure is just it's infinitely greater than what you have with a normal armbar.
So some people watching this are like, that's one of those really cool techniques that nobody's ever really used for real.
Yeah.
But it has showed up in competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most recent famous one would be Kron Gracie submitting JT Torres. He did it from the closed guard, which is a little bit of a different setup, but it's the same armbar. It's the hand trapped in the armpit, and in this case, he had the legs around the body. But Marcelo Garcia pretty famously also broke, I want to say Gracie's arm with this, like pretty much this exact movement. So yeah, this is definitely proven at the highest levels, and it's catastrophically damaging if you're not careful with it. And I mean, even if you are careful with it, but you're malicious, it'll be catastrophically damaging. So like, please guys, be very careful. But super reliable, and let's lead us into subsequent attacks. But once you establish this as a threat, people will immediately turn their arm, and you will be able to attack omoplatas and other things like that. So even if you never get to the point where this is something that's a reliable submission for you, it's still going to create powerful responses to
total panic mode.
Panic mode, self-preservation mode that will give you other things. So it's worth developing even if for that reason alone.